4th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 110. Uthgerd, Lola, and I set out from Riften again, still scouting north of the city and making our way along the northern road that leads to Windhelm. To the northwest of Shore's Stone, we came across Northwind Mine, which led up to the Northwind Summit. At the top, we were attacked by a group of reanimated skeletons. We took care of them easily, but they got me wondering. There were no miners to be found at this mine. Is it possible those undead were them? Whether they were or not, the original miners appear to have met an ill fate. There was a well-established camp at the summit, but it was abandoned and full of bones from both man and beast. Some of the bones were enormous. I'm guessing they are mammoth skeletons? But who would bring a mammoth all the way up here, and how in Mundus would they do it? There was another one of those chanting rune walls at the very top of the mountain. They still create odd feelings within me. It isn't quite terror like before, but it's something more akin to a whispering at the edge of my mind, just beyond my ability to understand. Nevertheless, it is a disturbing feeling, and so I still do not go near. After we finished exploring the area, it was late and time to stop for the night. We made camp along the trail just below the mine. The view was spectacular, looking out over the hot springs to the north, with snowy mountains further beyond in the distance. After a hearty meal of venison stew, I spent a couple of hours studying and learned how to conjure a familiar. Tomorrow, when my mind is fresh, I will try it out. Hopefully it will be something friendly and useful, not a Daedra like the one that crazy mage in the Rift Watchtower had conjured. 5th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 111. Roughly following the trail northward again, we discovered Crag's Lane Cavern. This turned out to be another bandit hideout that also served as a skooma den and pit-fighting gaming hall. Skyrim needs an organized law system. These bandits are wreaking havoc everywhere. We enacted martial law instead, disposing of everyone inside, both bandit and gambler. Good-for-nothings, the lot of them. I tested out my Conjure Familiar spell, and it is a spirit wolf. Perhaps I've been killing too many wolves, and this is Kinnereth's way of warning me. While I was hoping for something a bit more, I don't know, guardian-like, he is kind of cute, and one shouldn't look a gift spirit in the mouth, I suppose. Further along the trail, we found a camp guarded by a conjurer who attacked us on sight. Once he had been removed, we could see what he had been guarding, an entrance to a Nordic ruin called Ansilvund that had been cut into the side of the mountain. Although we were curious, in the interest of time we decided not to explore the ruin. Beyond the camp, up the mountainside to the east, there was a faint snowy trail. We followed it to a hunter's campsite, and just beyond, there was an enormous Dwemer ruin called Kagranzel. We were too curious to pass this one up, so we stepped inside for a peek. It opened into a large empty hall. In the center of the hall was a circular dais with an empty pedestal. As we approached, a glowing orb appeared, floating just above the pedestal. It illuminated the bodies of 2 bandits, whom I guess attempted to use the orb. Not wanting to share their fate, we decided to leave the orb alone. There was nothing else to explore, so we left the ruins and continued on our way. We followed the trail south until we came to Tolvald's cave again to ensure we didn't miss anything along the way. Retracing our steps back northward a bit, we made camp beside a small, clear pond. I spent some time studying a treasure map we picked up off the bandits in Crags Lane. It took me some time cross-checking against my map, but I think I found the location of the treasure. The drawing appears to be that of a partially buried ruin on the northern shore of Lake Ilinalta. We'll have to explore there when we make our way over to Falkreath Hold. 6th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 112. I woke to drops of water falling on my face from another Skyrim downpour. As it turns out, the fur tent I decided to put up, since we are just at the frost line, is not very waterproof. The Skyrim survival guide did warn me, so I can hardly be upset. But good thing I had tucked this journal safely into my pack last night. Otherwise, it might be ruined by now. I was able to salvage the remaining stew I'd cooked up last night from the pot, and we ate a warm meal in the dripping tent. Since there wasn't much point in staying there being wet in the tent, we packed up and headed farther down the trail. We decided to follow the main road heading west. This took us all the way to Darkwater Crossing, where I'd hoped to deliver Silgja's satchel. Although the rain let up just as we got there, the miners were not around, so I could not make the delivery. But we eyed the nearby hot springs with great interest. They looked incredibly inviting, especially after our chilling ride in the rain. So we changed into the lightest clothing we had and jumped in. The water was wonderful. I hadn't had a bath in so long that I'd almost forgotten how heavenly it felt. The hot springs were rejuvenating and made me feel so girlish that I splashed and jumped from pond to pond. Along the way, I collected samples of the unique plants that were growing there, including jazzbay grapes. They must like the warm water and sulfurous fumes because they were growing everywhere I looked. It was going to be much easier than I expected to collect enough for Evrusa's Nirnroots. In and around the sulfur pools, there were several nameless sunken ruins. Some of these were being guarded by animated skeletons, which we fought off without incident. Seemingly right in the center of the area, there was a small mountain called Bone-Strewn Crest, accessible by a single trail up one side. At the top was another rune wall, also being guarded by some skeletons. Out in the beautiful weather and still feeling relaxed from my soothing hot bath, even a creepy chanting wall couldn't dampen my spirits. I wasn't bold enough to get close to it, but it was easy enough to ignore while we explored the crest. Just down from the mountain, we discovered another one of those circular, dirt-covered mounds. I still have no idea what they are. Not far from Darkwater Crossing, we found a cave that we wanted to explore, but we'd left most of our gear back on the horses at the miners' camp. So we headed back to Darkwater to gear up. The miners were taking a break around the campfire, so we were able to introduce ourselves and deliver Silgja's satchel to her father, Werner. He was very grateful to get his daughter's letters, and gave us another satchel to return to her. It's clear that he misses her very much. Taking the horses with us, we returned to the cave. It turned out to be the entrance to Elder Gleam's sanctuary. Inside, we saw the most amazing sight. Bathed in a heavenly glow shining down from a hole in the cavern roof was the Elder Gleam, an enormous tree of the rarest beauty I've ever laid eyes upon. The pilgrims at the site claimed that the tree was a direct manifestation of Kinnereth herself. Seeing its beauty and experiencing the peace and tranquility of the place, I could believe such a thing might be true. I wanted to get a closer look, but the tree had thick roots, strong as iron, blocking the path. After visiting with the pilgrims and resting for a bit, we headed back to Darkwater Crossing to camp for the night. 7th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 113. After breakfasting with the miners, we set out for a nearby fort called Mistwatch. Just inside, we found a farmer who said his wife, Fiola, had been kidnapped by bandits, and he wanted us to help look for her inside. I agreed, and we did indeed find her, but as it happened, she wasn't kidnapped at all. She had left him and become the leader of this bandit tribe. When I commented that I wasn't sure we should leave her to continue her banditing ways, she attacked, and we were forced to kill her. It was unfortunate, but I cannot feel too badly about her death when she insisted on such a lifestyle. We made our way back to her husband and informed him what had happened. He would not listen to reason and attacked us in a rage for vengeance. I stayed my hand, hoping we could calm the man, but Uthgerd ran him through before I could speak another word. I'm sorry for the loss. Although it was his fault for not letting us explain, I do not think he needed to die. I'm quite unsettled by the event. My intent is to help people, not to upset or harm them. This was a most unsatisfying end, and I hope not to have any more incidents like this. Farther out into the hot springs, we found some giants living at Steam Crag Camp. On the eastern side of the camp, just by the road, we came across a sacked caravan. It appeared to be crushed, probably by one of the nearby giants. There was a wounded Khajiit sitting by the cart, who, to my surprise, said that the caravan had been ransacked by bandits, not the giants. She then asked if we would escort her to Windhelm. I agreed, but as I turned to get on my horse, she mumbled something about adventurers being gullible and tried to stab me in the back. Uthgerd and Lola came to my rescue, and we handily dispatched her. To my horror, the commotion attracted the giants at the camp. They quickly bounded over, shaking the ground with their footfalls. Before we could move away, one of them proceeded to club the nearest target, my beloved horse, Brandy. The first swipe knocked her down, and before I could intercede, she was hit with a second swipe and died instantly. Aggrieved, no, outraged, I turned on the giant, blasted it with fireballs until it died in a charred crisp. Brandy had been with me from the beginning of my adventures, all the way back to those first weeks in Whiterun. I will miss her greatly. She was truly a worthy steed and valiant companion. Setting my emotions aside for the moment, I had to face a practical reality. After redistributing everything from Brandy's packs, we were all loaded down too heavily to move at more than a snail's pace. We decided to make for Windhelm. Hopefully, we would be able to unload some extra gear and buy a new horse there. As I walked, I felt even more heavily burdened by the day's events than by all the gear I carried. I couldn't even muster enthusiasm for our discovery of yet another mysterious dirt mound, just off the road in the northern section of the hot springs. 8th to 15th of Evening Star, 4E201, days 114 to 121. We made it to Windhelm and stayed for about a week. During that time, I did some crafting and spent a lot of time working at the enchanting table. I have finally learned how to weave 2 enchantments into a single item. I could never have figured out the trick without the help of a very special book called Twin Secrets that I found in Treva's watch. It seems that my skill has even impressed the Jarl of Windhelm's wizard, Wounfirth. That is quite a feat, as nobody in this city seems to have anything positive to say about anything. I honestly cannot wait to leave. The Nords here think that everyone else is beneath them. Their attitude seems to have tainted the very stones of the city. It permeates everywhere, and every happy feeling is squashed before it can take root. There was one other good thing that happened during our stay. I found a Daedra heart for the orcs at the alchemy shop. The shopkeeper, an aged alchemist named Norelian, was happy to sell it to me. While in the shop, I overheard Norelian and his assistant talking about some sort of special magical file. Curious to learn more, I asked him about it, somewhat hesitantly since I did not want him to think that I'd been eavesdropping. Norelian was more than willing to speak about it. It is an item called the White File, for which the shop was named, and the man had spent his entire life seeking. It seems he has only recently uncovered the location of the file, but he is now too frail to make the journey himself. I offered to seek it on his behalf, and he marked its location on my map. 16th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 122. This morning I sold a few last items we didn't need, and then bid farewell to the unhappy city of Windhelm. On the way out, we purchased a new horse at the stables. I've named her Cinnamon. Today's first goal was the Forsaken Cave to seek the White File for Norelian. From there, we planned to head to the Mages College in Winterhold. I'm told that the college is the best place to find magical training, tomes, and soul stones. Hopefully they will allow me to purchase some supplies and train up my magic skills. We found the Forsaken Cave along the western road out of Windhelm. It was a dark, dismal Nordic ruin full of Draugr. With my experienced team, we fought them without much difficulty, until we reached the last chamber. From a prominently placed sarcophagus in the middle of the room, a fearsome Draugr named Cyrodiil popped out and threw both spell and sword at us. It was a difficult battle, but we prevailed. Behind his sarcophagus there was another chanting rune wall. Since I refused to approach, Uthgerd had to loot the chest that was sitting at the base of it. Underneath the wall, there was a tunnel leading to a small chamber. Upon entering, we found a pedestal with an empty bowl. As instructed by Norelian, I poured his mixture into the bowl, and a door opened in the far wall. Beyond the door, we found the White File, prominently displayed upon a lit dais. I was almost giddy with excitement, until I realized that the file was thoroughly cracked and most likely ruined. I do not know what this will mean for Norelian, but I do not think the file can be used in its current condition. I'm sure he will be disappointed, but there's nothing I can do. I have no idea how to repair it, and I would be too afraid to try with my limited skill. After carefully tucking the artifact in my bag, I set about exploring the rest of the room. It appeared to be an alchemist's storeroom, for we found many useful reagents. These also went into my bag, and then we exited the ruins out a side door leading off the main chamber. Once we were back outside, we turned northward along the road towards Winterhold. The road led right past an old stone structure, Fort Castav, which had been taken over by a band of rogue wizards. I would have been happy to ignore them and get to the college as quickly as possible, but they set skeletons on us as we passed. Fortunately, with all my enchanted gear, mages are not much threat anymore. We cleared out the fort in no time, looting whatever magical items we found, and continued on our way. We made it to Winterhold as night was falling, and got rooms at the local inn. I must say, the Mages College does make an impressive sight as one approaches. I hope what they have to offer is at least as impressive.